Hello YouTubers, welcome to my channel. I hope you are doing well. I want to thank everyone for all of their support to my channel. I just love you all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I really do. And to those who had questions for me, I thought I'd make this a special video and answer some of the questions that I do get, and to also talk a little bit about something other than the royals. The consensus on my poll was that occasionally to talk about other things would be the best way, and I think that would be good too. So occasionally I'll just drop another story in here and we'll just talk about something else. Now it really does depend though, because I want to find something that interests me, because I don't want to be up here talking about something that I'm just like whatever. I want to be able to have some passion behind what it is that I'm talking about. So I'm thinking perhaps the other royals, I could speak about them, Catherine and William and what they're doing. Maybe look at some things from Queen Elizabeth's life in the past. And also the other royal, the one that Lady C told me about. Yeah, her. We can talk about her and what she's doing. I think she's just lovely. And we can just have some fun with some other people, because we're just waiting for them to just to do something with that train. They keep speeding up. It needs to slow down. Something needs to happen. It needs to halt. Just get a checkup, or they need to do some maintenance or something. But that train just needs to slow down and at some point just come to a stop, because we just almost done with dealing with them and their nonsense. But anyway, okay, so one of the questions that was asked of me, what was my thoughts about this is kind of related to Meghan, but this has another spin on it. The ladies that come on the Good Morning America, the black women who are British that have speaking points, and they always seem to side with Meghan. She has, all these people being racist against her, but never really truly addressing the issues. So and there has been a few moments, okay, when I have watched those episodes with these talking heads, they call them, and I how you just want to wring somebody's neck. Sometimes I just get so upset and mad over it, but I have to remember just to calm it down, because I don't want to get stressed over this. But it's just unbelievable how they take up for her no matter what. It's like she doesn't have to even worry about her character, because she can just blame everything on the fact that she's black. She's black, and they're messing around with me and calling me out for being a certain kind of way, and it's all because of my skin color. And that's just not like that. It's not like that at all. And I think when people are trying to use that race card because they don't have any other defense, when they can't even come up with a good rationale or counter to someone's bad behavior. When they can't come up with a good rationale, be like, you racist. Nah, you right. I want to hear you racist. Racist. That's what you get. So that's when they don't have anything to hold an argument to some of the bad things that we know Meghan especially has done. You just have to at some point be willing to say, yeah, you're right. She should not have done that. That's wrong. And until you're able to call out someone's behavior, I don't care how much you like them. And I've been able to do that in an extent with my beloved Princess Diana, because listening to what Lady C was telling me, how she would do things that were disruptive to the royal family and using the news media as well. Now, to her credit, though, Princess Diana did have reason because of how they treated her. I felt like she was being retaliatory only because of why the royal family, how they treated her. So that was her way of getting back. And maybe sometimes she could have been a little petty about it when she did that panorama interview. Now she went full blown postal when she did that. She was like, I ain't telling nobody. I'm giving an interview. I'm going to sit here with Mr. Martin Bashir, and we're going to talk, and it's going to be all out on the table. She didn't care. She was like, I'm done with these royal people. And that's what she did. But unfortunately, that was a bit much. It was a bit much. I think for her, Princess Diana, in hindsight, just listening to Lady C and some of the other things about, how she didn't have her good side too. She's not perfect. You have to be willing to admit when someone you like a lot, no matter what, when you can admit that they do have their faults and that you can call them out when they are doing something wrong, you have to do that. You can't always blame it on race and Meghan's situation. Okay. So you have to be willing to do that. And I'm willing to do that with my beloved Princess Diana. And sadly, she's no longer here with us. And as unfortunate as it is, she has paid the ultimate price. She has. She's no longer here. So she will always be my example of someone who was not perfect, but who was the best version of herself that she could be. She really was. And I'm able to say she had her faults. Regardless of how much I liked her, I can say that. But at the same time, Princess Diana had such a genuine quality about her that the few moments of her imperfection that did seep through, it didn't compare to her greatness and who she was as a person. And for that, she will always have a special place in my heart for that reason. But to also be an example to someone who was not perfect, that regardless if you like them, you can see how they can have their faults as well, and to call that out when appropriate. And, and I feel like I've been able to address it and see it a lot clearer now in my age of wisdom. And it's taught me a lot to see Princess Diana for what she was, just an immortal person who wasn't perfect. And she wasn't like the greatness that I had in my head as a young girl, but she was just an ordinary sweet woman who fell into an extraordinary circumstance. And she has a place in history that is revered by many. And she will always be a person that people genuinely, as a consensus, liked her for what she stood for at the end of the day when it got down to who she really was as a person. Because I feel like she was done wrong. But at the same time, I can see the royal family wanting to try to make a match, but they just didn't do it the right way. They did something on the pretense to uphold the bloodlines of royalty, to only have a certain kind of a mother because she would be the mother of the future king. And I think that so much control over who that woman would be was their downfall. It could have been Camilla. I mean, okay, she wasn't a virgin. We know. But hey, she's the one and that loved the prince, and the prince really loved her, but they said no. And that's when she went off and married that Parker Bowles guy, and the rest is history. Now look, they ended up married anyway. So I think it comes down to just one of those things that are just tragic all the way around. And yeah. And if Princess Diana could see her son today, her second, the spare, if she could see him and how he has just maybe made things bad for the royals, I think she's like, yeah. She's probably like, I don't like that Meghan, but she gonna get back at those royals that made my life miserable. So it could be Princess Diana. It's probably, what goes around comes around kind of a thing. So everything that they did to her is coming back now on the royal family through Meghan. So it's kind of balancing itself out, if you look at it like that. Oh, the pundits on the television shows. So that's what I was talking about with that. I think that there should be an example. So let me see which example I can pull up, and let's talk about that one in particular.
Interviews, I've seen them. But then she'd made a few missteps, and a more negative amount of criticism appeared, which I thought in the main was fully justified. Inaccurate stories are not justified, but most of the stories actually, it's turned out, were true. Your premise is this is all driven by racism, that Britain's basically a racist country and the media's been racist, to which I say, on behalf of the media, where is that racism? I haven't seen it.
I didn't say it was all driven by racism. I mean, Piers, if we take your kind of obsessive articles about Meghan, I'd say there's a dose of misogyny and xenophobia in there as well.
Every paper today has literally like 10 pages. I've not been obsessive. I've criticised Meghan and Harry where I felt they've deserved criticism. And also, when people tweet those columns of mine, they don't include all the positive ones. They're trying to create a false impression that it's all been one-way negative media, as long as with good coverage, 10 times worse than Meghan Markle. And a clear example I would give you of how far the media have gone to actually protect Meghan Markle. Look at the 6-week holiday they had in Canada. Not a single paparazzi picture, no intrusion, allowed to do their thing. And they responded to this, as they did when the press were incredibly positive about their trip to South Africa, with a torrent of negativity and their new media rule book, which only involves having people who are going to suck up to them.
I just find this surreal. There have been allegations that she's associated with very racialized forms of crime. There have been discussions about her exotic DNA. Her newborn baby.
Is her DNA not exotic by royal standards? She was the first mixed-race person to ever enter the royal family.
This is the context.
Why is the word exotic? Why do you take exception to the word exotic?
Because it others her and associates her with a history.
She's an African-American joining a white royal family.
As other and
the word exotic is not derogatory.
Well, listen, I'm a woman.
You can't just say these things are racist when they're not.
I'm telling you, as somebody who's lived the experience of being a person of African heritage in this country, that there are narratives that are regularly used.
You see racism
by
in everything.
People like you. No, I don't.
No, but are you accusing me of being racist?
I'm saying that the narratives you're perpetuating, yes, they're racist.
Really? Where have I been racist?
Where have you been racist?
Tell me.
I mean, I come on here usually to discuss debate.
Name one example of me being racist.
On the side of racism.
No, you can say it, but then you have to prove it. Where have I been racist?
What do you think about the British Empire, Piers?
Huh?
The British Empire.
Well, what do you mean? What do you think of the British Empire?
What do you think about
it doesn't exist anymore.
Do you think that it was positive that Britain went around the world trying to civilise people they regarded as savage?
I think it had positives and negatives, as I'm always saying.
And what do you think is the legacy of that project of telling people of African heritage that they were closer to savages? Do you think that entire history, which ended, by the way, in the 1950s,
I think a lot of it was deeply flawed
and irrelevant.
And I think a lot of it was good, like most people.
So the royal family,
why am I a racist?
But because you... Listen, my definition of racism is that we've inherited a very racialised history. Either you're committed to trying to dismantle and change that history of racism, or you're part of it.
Where has the media been racist about Meghan Markle?
The media has wholeheartedly thrown itself, not all the media, but sections of it, especially the bits that you work for, Piers, wholeheartedly thrown itself
that I work for, wow. Okay.
That was the example. There was another one too. So this is the one that I'm going to speak about for this one. So I did look this author up. So Afu Hirsch is a Norwegian-born British writer, broadcaster, and former barrister. She has worked as a journalist for the Guardian newspaper and was the social affairs and education editor for Sky News. Okay, so here is a lady who was speaking about the racism in the media. Now, I'm going to give you a reason why I think she drew Meghan as an example to speak about on the show with Piers Morgan, but she didn't pick a good example of someone to speak about for the argument in which she was trying to speak against or argue against. Trying to have an argument for the sake of having an argument around race and media and choosing Meghan Markle and the issues she found herself with in terms of media was not a good example. I think she wanted to speak about that because it made her relevant to the story at the time. It made something that she could speak on intellectually about. It gave her validation to be a credible person that Piers Morgan could speak about or speak with on this subject area. But what she did was wrong because she didn't choose the right person who was dealing with an issue with racism in the media. And she would have had a much better argument for what it is that she writes about if she would have said the examples that Meghan Markle faced in terms of the media and racism, those were not issues of racism, because Meghan clearly has done things that were in poor choice. There were character flaws in how she has behaved that the media targeted and wrote about. And this is why she had the negative press, because it's the character at the end of the day that is going to be the reason why they're being called out. She didn't have the negative press because she's a black woman, because other royals have had just as much negative press. And Meghan Markle clearly has done things that the media is going to write about that are controversial. And whether they're controversial and someone is racist and writes about it, hey, they can still write about it because what she was doing was not right. It was not okay. But they can at the same time also not be racist and write about it. So the lines are blurred. You don't know. So I don't think Afua has proven her point by coming on and going back in situations with Piers about racism, because the examples that she gave, one, she was trying to talk about the founding of England and it's been founded on principles that are drenched in racist ideologies. And yeah, you're going to go back and you're going to find a lot of things that are racist in certain countries and times and places. And I bet if the roles were reversed, if all black people were heading up the country, they would do things against white people that were treating them poorly, because the dominant culture did things that were not right because they were trying to build an empire. And so they had to demonize one certain kind of people to help lift up the culture that they're trying to make prominent in the country. And that's just the way history is. That's just, even black people had slaves. So her argument around that just did not fly with me. She didn't bring up one thing that Piers Morgan said, what am I racist about? Give me one example. She couldn't do it because Piers is not showing that he's racist against Meghan, or how she tried when she first started talking about how Piers was always making up these stories that were inflamed with, Meghan Markle headlines. And, Piers has very good reason for the things that he's written about Meghan, because one, he's had experiences with her before she was famous. And he clearly saw how she was one way when she wasn't famous, and then another way when she was famous. And other people have said the same thing. So Piers is validated in what he is saying. He's not just making this up. And people always like to twist and turn what Piers said to make it like, he's obsessed with her. No, he's keeping it real. He's calling it out the way it is. So I just don't buy the argument that Afua was trying to make in this situation. And it seems to always be the black women on these talk shows that are always fighting for justice for Meghan. And it's really a disservice to black people who have real issues that they deal with in terms of racism. Meghan was not the person that was finding herself in a situation where she was being targeted because of her race. Number one, she don't even look black. So you don't even have an argument there. You could look at this woman and think she was from Italy. She was Hispanic. She was white. And she's always claimed to be white because she knew she looked white. So don't try to make yourself relevant by speaking about something with a false narrative. Now, there was an example of the writer Danny, I believe his name was, who wrote this saying the child looked like a monkey. Well, you know, okay, if you call a child a monkey, and I've heard people call children monkeys because they are like monkeys, okay? They just climbing around, jumping around, acting all crazy and just like a monkey. But there's a problem because Black people have always been equated with being called monkeys. You can't really do that. Although you might be doing it in the most purest way possible, as a white person, you just can't call a child that's got a drop of Black in them, you can't call them a monkey, because it does look racist, even if you don't think it's racist. That's what it appears to be. And sometimes there's just certain things in culture that it can appear to be one way, and you have to say, for the sake of it not appearing that way, I'm not going to say it. Okay, but some people find themselves doing things out of pure ignorance. They just don't know better. And then they'll apologize. And in the situation with this journalist, he ended up getting fired. And she also had an issue with her being called exotic. Well, let's think about it. She is this girl who's coming in with this mixture of, you know, American, some Black and some white. Okay, maybe not white royal, but white. So she is exotic when you think about it. So there's nothing racist by calling Meghan exotic. So I think this lady, a fool, was just trying to find a reason to be relevant in writing her story. Has she said that, you know, Pierce, Meghan to me seems like a person who's made poor choices. She's done things that the media will write about because that's what they do. They've targeted other royals. We know that Fergie and Camilla and Diana have all had their share of criticism in the media, and Meghan is no different. But at the same time, I think that she wasn't being targeted for her race. She was being targeted because of her choices. This author, this journalist, this lady a fool would have had a much stronger argument for what it is that she speaks about. Had she made that her argument, it would have made her much more reputable. But trying to defend this train wreck, trying to defend this girl who has clearly made poor choices, who have done things that are just not acceptable by how she's come into this family, behaving and treating people, and how she is trying to take over with Harry, and how she's being disrespectful to the royal family. You have to call that out. And you cannot excuse it by saying that people are racist when they call it out. That's just not right to do. And as you guys know, with my beloved Princess Diana, I would never, ever, if she were behaving badly, give her an excuse for behaving badly. When you really like someone, you have to be able to be real and call them out when they are doing the wrong thing. Now, in my younger years, when I was, you know, on my Diana tribe, I was loving my Princess Diana. I thought she could do no wrong, period. She can't, no, that's my Diana and the royal family, they wrong. But now in my older years, I can see, okay, now Diana, you should not do that. Like that Panorama interview, you should not do that. Well, but I was kind of glad she did, but she maybe shouldn't have done that. So you have to be able to know, hey, she's not perfect. She's not perfect, but you have to be able to call people out when they're doing things that are behaving badly. You know, having these moments where you can kind of teach somebody, no, you don't do that. We don't go into someone's house and behave badly like that. So that's my argument. I think it's not right for all these Black women to come on these talk shows and defend Meghan like she can do no wrong, because at the end of the day, Meghan clearly was not being targeted, in my opinion, for her race. She was behaving badly. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was also the Netflix show, The Crown, season 4, Princess Diana. I saw the trailer. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It is really good. And I'm thinking, should I speak about The Crown, the Netflix, and the Princess Diana? Because you know that's going to be right up my alley. Speaking about my Diana. Now, some of you have canceled your Netflix subscriptions because we know Netflix has behaved badly by giving this couple a deal that they they clearly have not deserved. But I have free Netflix through my telephone provider. I get it as part of my package Netflix for free. So I'll be watching The Crown, and I'll be giving some updates on the different shows and speaking about it. I haven't watched all of The Crown. I've watched some of the beginning, but I kind of tapered off later. So maybe I'll go back and catch up on that, and then catch up with season 4 when it comes out November 15th, and talk about that here on my channel, because I said I could maybe occasionally talk about, that was the consensus, to occasionally talk about other things besides Harry and Meghan, and I can definitely do that. And that was the other question. And another question where people wanted to know a little bit about my acting and my background. Well, the one thing that I'll do here on my regular free channel is speak about just different stories. I still do the Harry and Meghan stories, but also do maybe some other stories that are relevant with royalty and history, perhaps when Queen Elizabeth came into the monarchy, talking about that, diving a little bit into the history of the royals. I think that might be interesting, and also speaking about Prince William and Kate Middleton. I think that might be interesting as well too, how it should be done. Thank goodness they're doing things the way they should be done, or we'd have a big mess on our hands. So that could be another option. I'm almost done with Lady C's book. I'll be reviewing chapter 10 next, and that will be coming soon. And there's some other books that are out that we could speak about as well. I would also like to speak about the death of Princess Diana. I know that there are some stories about, you know, how she died. There are a lot of questions around that. And I think there are some questions around the death of Princess Diana. So I'm thinking perhaps I'll maybe talk about that as well. So we'll just have to see how I'm feeling, and we can do that and talk about it. But I just want to let everyone know that I really do appreciate you all. I thank you so much for being subscribers to my channel. But also, if you want to join my membership page, that's the channel in which I'll be doing things that are more relevant around my life as an actor and the other things that I'm doing. So, and with that said, thank you to everyone who has bought me a cup of coffee. I really do appreciate you. I just love getting my Starbucks. Y'all make my day. Okay, so that's all I have for this one. And until next time, you guys, mwah, peace and love. I love you all. Bye-bye.